This is my review of Masters of the Universe Revelations, and I think the biggest revelation I came up with is how many people don't understand the concept of a cliffhanger. Jay here with Nerd Rage Against the Machine, and today we're going to do a review of Masters of the Universe Revelation. Now, I didn't do a review of Part 1, and this is a review of both Parts 1 and 2 because they are a single story. The thing that really pissed me off more than anything in most of the reviews I saw for Part 1 was all this anger, all this crying about how this was a bait and switch, Kevin Smith lied to us, he's ruined Masters of the Universe. He ruined my childhood. Guys, seriously? So let me start out with this. I'm not the world's biggest Kevin Smith fan by any stretch. I loved Clerks. I loved Mallrats, Chasing Amy and Dogma. After that, I felt the quality started to go. I thought Comic Book Men was a joke, another stupid reality show that we didn't need. Honestly, Clerks 2 was meh. If he does a Clerks 3, as he's often threatened to do, I hope he calls it Clerks 3 So Very Tired. Because, again, while Clerks was a film that definitely captured the zeitgeist, that zeitgeist is long gone, guys. We can do something better. You can do more. Do something else. Also, you know, I feel like sometimes he comes off as too much of a shill, especially when talking about comic book movies. And again, I get it. Fanboy who now has access to Marvel and DC stuff is going to fanboy gush, but it's something that always kind of rang a little disingenuous with me. That's my opinion of Kevin Smith in a nutshell. Now, saying that, I liked the show. I really did like Masters of the Universe Revelations. And I know a lot of people complained about the fact that there was a bait and switch to turn it into the Tila show, which... I want to stop myself right there because I do want to say this. I'm going to be as spoiler free as possible, but I tend to kind of shoot from the hip, so watch it first just in case. But saying that, you know, this idea that the show had been a bait and switch to turn it into the Tila show all seem to be predicated on the fact that there was a lot of Tila in that first part. The idea that He-Man is destroyed and, you know, Tila takes over, which, honestly, you know, going to comic books, this felt more to me like the death of Superman. First off, when DC announced that they were going to kill Superman, and there were people, you know, great, kill him, I can't wait, he's stupid, he's OP! Until he died, then it was, bring him back, he's classic! When I first saw the death of Superman, I'm like, they're going to bring him back. There's no doubt in my mind that DC is going to, even if Superman's numbers aren't as good as they've been in the past, he's too big of an IP to let go. I mean, this would be like Disney saying, you know what, forget it, we're not even going to bother with Mickey Mouse anymore. We're just done. Forget Mickey Mouse. You know, nope, not going to happen. Same thing's true here. The death of Superman was a publicity stunt. And the bringing in of 4 new, hipper, cooler Supermen were just that. A publicity stunt. We were always going to get Superman back, and that's kind of how this felt. It was like, you know, we did this cliffhanger. Skeletor gets the power at the cliffhanger. He-Man is dead, totally dead. Just like Superman was completely dead, never coming back. And Magneto, and, you know, so many other, Dr. Doom. I mean, how many times have you heard a superhero is dead and thought it was real? I mean, most of these characters, you know, without getting too anti-religious here, but the idea of the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus, I mean, most of these people make Jesus look like a rank amateur. I mean, Superman's returned from the dead more times than I could count. Dr. Doom, I can remember as a kid having a comic that said, you know, the death of Dr. Doom. I bought it. Ooh, I've got, you know, the last appearance of Dr. Doom. I was in 3rd grade, and I'm now pushing 50. Guess what? Doctor Doom's still around. Same thing's true here. He-Man does not stay dead by any stretch. The show made some changes, but it didn't really change the status quo. Now, the other elephant in the room is, of course, the destruction of continuity. They ignored continuity. This is an alternate universe mentality thing. And again, I have a very hard time buying that for a few reasons. One of which is, as a kid show in the 80s, and a comic book that came with each of the toys, there was already a massive continuity drift because of the fact that the comic books came first. They were produced by Mattel with some artists' help, and don't get me wrong there, but they could get by with a lot more as a pack-in comic than they could on a TV show. I mean, the idea of cartoons as commercials was the wild, wild west. And this is why you have things like the ever-popular tacked-on morals at the end of every episode, because they had to do things to kind of prove their value. And also why, we had a lot of robots to fight, because, again, you could kill Horde troopers or Skeletor's robot minions. You could just, bash the hell out of them, but we didn't want to see, Skeletor and He-Man really trading blows the way that they should have when you have a barbarian and a demon from another dimension. Which is another thing that this show does. There is a lot more conflict because, first off, the FCC doesn't have the control over Netflix. Also, this is now a, 30-plus year property. This is, again, I was part of He-Man's core demographic, and now I'm pushing 50, as I said earlier in the video. I think that anytime you're going to try to continue that story, especially now, you're going to see the more adult version of it. Same thing was true with Transformers and G.I. Joe with those movies. I mean, it's obvious with the live-action movies for both, they had the ability to do things, again, in theater, not in a cartoon show. They had that ability to do things they couldn't do in that cartoon show back in the day. And continuity, because of that, gets skewered. Now, saying that, I also want to point out that that's not uncommon for a lot of things. I mean, look at Battlestar Galactica. The reboot has a completely different continuity, gender-changing characters, etc. And while this one doesn't go as far with that, there is no massive, we don't have a female version of Merman or something like that running around. It really does stick close. There are the little niggling things that change, well, technically Roboto was a character that was, found, whereas in the new one they say that Man-at-Arms built him. Yeah, that's true, but it's not the end of the world. The themes are here, the story goes forward, and it does use a lot of the same mentality of the old cartoon. In fact, if anything, I would say this is still closer tied to the cartoon than it would be to the comic book. He-Man having kind of cheesy one-liners and kind of that goody-goody attitude, which I think permeates this show. And also, you're seeing this with the other He-Man show, the CGI one. One thing I noticed, a theme that was in both the new CGI one and this one, is the idea of sharing the power. It's an obvious running trope in this. The idea that, one, while He-Man may be the conduit, other people get it. In the new kitty cartoon version, the CGI one, in fact, all the characters say, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power, and become something else. Duncan is a kid as opposed to a parent in the new version, and in the kitty CGI version, which I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but follow me here. But he's Duncan as a kid, and then when he says, I have the power, he becomes Man-at-Arms with all the armor and cool stuff. Teela, again, same idea. She's a kind of half-assed sorcery type who, when she calls down the power, all of a sudden is basically the embodiment of the new sorceress. And that is the other big, thing is, the idea of Teela becoming the sorceress, which, minor spoiler alert, because it's something they did hint to in the original cartoon as well. And the fact that the toy line, there was a point where they were going to have the goddess and then Teela, but girl toys don't sell, so we just kind of split the difference and make Teela. So that theme has always been running. It's kind of more the culmination of something that has been hinted at since the toy's genesis, really. Beyond that, the animation is great. I think they did a really killer job with the animation. The voice acting is superb. The story is a little more mature, but again, most of the audience who's going to like this is more mature now than they were then. Honestly, I don't get the hate. I really don't. Now I can understand just not liking it. Maybe the timing was off or the pacing, but I think the thing that really blew my mind when you listen to some of these people was the fact that they were looking for what seemed to me like cartoony things to complain about. Oh, they made King Grayskull black. They ruined King Grayskull. Okay, King Grayskull isn't that long or beloved of a character. He was, and some of these characters were literally just cutting room floor ideas. It's a little like some of the, myriad examples of, we had this planned, John Candy was supposed to be a neighbor in Ghostbusters. Originally, a variant of Louis Tully was going to be John Candy. And he was going to have a German accent. That never came to fruition, so, something that brings that into the Ghostbusters trilogy isn't going to ruin the much-beloved character that we never saw, guys. Sorry, that's just the way it is. All in all, though, I would give it 5 out of 5. I think it was well done. And again, you can think of it as part of the original continuity. You can think of it as an aside note if you want. But honestly, there wasn't anything as toxic or as destructive or as it ruined my childhood as some people tend to let to believe. And with that, all I'm going to say is happy viewing, and I bid you adieu.